This is Pops. I forgot to pull up the zipper, but I don't think it would have made any difference, and I lost one of these little zip-up hoodies. Yeah, the rest of it's still good, but the zipper's all falling apart. The zip and the stop and the all got. Ooh. Okay, customer intake, so to speak. How to translate that into mechanic or technician speak. Well, I'm going to make a recommendation coming from a guy who owned his own business for 8 years. It was pretty good, actually. And actually, considering what I had to go through, turned out to be darn good. But, in the end result, it wasn't a fancy shop of any kind. It was, we need to put this car together for, basically, I was there for the local shops that were doing the work themselves, but the technical stuff on the cylinder heads, boring and such, they couldn't do. I could do the basics, and that helped out most of the shops quite a bit. Would even help them more if I'd have been able to get my hands on a lathe or a brake lathe. I was close to that, but not quite. The prices were coming down so far that it got to the point where dropping $6,000 for a new brake lathe was just, and you couldn't find them used. Nobody give them up. Okay, translations. You're a service writer, a service technician that's behind the desk to replace him, or you're the service manager. You're taking in the intake. What are you going to do? Well, there's two things that happen. One of them is on the phone. You get the phone call, you've got a job, it's coming in, you're going to discuss it on the phone. At that point, you're trying to translate for the customer what a job might involve or what would be best. Customer complaint comes in. Don't just stop with what the customer says. Ask those questions. Some of them might sound stupid, like Debbie and I were just going through one with a car. She says, sounds like something's flapping back there. I get in the car and ain't no flapping. That's a doggone scrape. I mean, a loud one, too. Well, then it was quiet. Then it was loud. There's a lot in the description that got missed. As soon as you hear flapping noise, where do you think it's coming from? Once in a while, you get a customer that'll put the windows down and listen for the noises coming from, or the symptoms of the car bucking. What's it doing? When did it do it? And all those, and customers get frustrated. I don't remember exactly. Well, that's okay. I'm just asking because these are things that help us get an idea of what the repair could be, so we know how to talk to let you know, A, what it might be, of course, but how long it might take and what's better. See, in some cases, is ag, industrial construction, rental, some of the others, you can do a lot of the work in the field, but you need a little bit more specifics than what most of you manager types are willing to put into it. So I just want to give you a list. First is the customer complaint. Within the customer complaint, can you whittle it down to a specific sound, symptom, or whatever else that they can tell you? Even if they sit there and say, oh, I think it's misfiring, like bad spark plug. Okay, let them give you that, because even with that, when the technician goes out and finds out it's a vacuum leak, the end result's identical. How it got there to the misfire, that's different. Customer ain't got x-ray eyes, but that information is important for the technician that goes out. Okay, first the customer complaint and ask the questions. Well, okay, what were you doing at the time? What was the machine doing at the time? How long has the machine been sitting? Because that can be as important as anything else. Has it been serviced regularly? Or did it miss a service? And go on with these things, because sometimes you'll say something to the customer like, I changed oil, I forgot to do something with the dadgum spark plug, or I didn't put my air cleaner in there. Dad, burn it. They'll say, well, I cleaned my air cleaner, that can't be it. Well, how long has it been in there? I clean it every spring, or I clean it every such and such, or every service, or yeah, you're a cleaner shot. It is? It is. You don't clean it. The little foam wraps for the small engine stuff, yes. Your K&N filters, but the rest of them, you clean nothing anymore. They're too expensive. So while you're going through this process, you're actually starting now a conversation with your customer to find out what the complaint is, what the complaint seems to be, the source, when the complaint generally happens. So now you've got three things that are in there. Complaint, and you're starting to look for possible cause before anything happens. Well, it sounds like something simple. We can send a man out. I mean, as in human for you lefties, but for the rest of you, we'll send a man out, take a look at it. There's a 99% chance it's a man that's going to show up there. Women don't like to get that dirty usually. Or if they do, it's for a different reason. I know Diesel Queen and others. Yeah. But anyway, so now you're at the point where you can talk with a customer with some variety of ideas of what the problem could be, but you're keeping that in your mind. Most customers don't want to know what the problem might be, because as soon as you tell them anything, well, that could be a bad spark plug. Okay, you bring it in, you end up with an engine overhaul for a burnt valve. Why? Because it's the same end result, engine skip, misfire, but a different source. So you have to be a little bit generic. Sometimes you can be a little more specific with some people, but just talk with them. When you're done, you get the customer's complaint, possible causes, and the signs and symptoms that go along with it. When can you bring it in? Well, the unit's pretty big. So it's a unit that you can't bring in. All right, now we schedule that, when to go out. Well, what does the technician need to know when he gets there? Let me tell you, one of the things that quite often gets missed, it comes at this point before you even get to the technician. But most managers forget until they talk to the technician. The type of machine, the model of the machine, and the serial number of the machine, and in some cases, a code or variation of the machine. In Komatsu's case, we used to call it the dash number. It might be a PC200-8. Well, there was no -10. So at PC200, you immediately know it's someplace between a 5 and an 8, because the next series up with the same style machine, updated, is a 210-10 and 11. They replaced it for emissions and other reasons. So within a dealer, you get that idea. If you're a general guy like I was, you just need to know, yep, that was a D17 Ellis Chalmers, and the high-low don't work. Okay, what's the high-low do? And then he says, well, I put it in and then the handle pops right back out. Well, you already know. Can you adjust it and make it work? Probably not. Oh, you want to come out and try? I said, if you want me to, then I can go out and make it, an attempt. But it's worn. But I might be able to show you where it's worn. And 95% of the time, I'm going out there to show them what the problem is so they can put the money together to overhaul their high-low clutch. So those are some things that technician needs to know, some of those, that piece of information. A lot of managers just say, all I want to know is what is it, where is it, and half the time they get poor directions. Because I've seen this too many times where rental or some other outfit has an service address, but they don't give you the address, the office address, but they don't give you the address of the site that the equipment is at. Now that's beyond the 50% failure that I've seen in the last 30 years. I mean, horrible. Or in some cases, it's even worse. The machine was here, and then they moved it to there, and that was 3 days ago that some of this happened, and nobody called to confirm where the machine was when they finally sent you out. So on the technician side, you need to know everything that called in. The customer, the customer's complaint, possible causes, and signs and symptoms. So you got 4 things there that are important to get on the work order to begin with. Before you're done, though, the technician needs to know the customer, maybe, but he needs to know the machine, the dash number, which is your variation number, and your serial number or PIN code. They need to know those things and any other accessories that are on it. Those are important. As you go out there for hydraulic problems and you find out there's 3 or 4 auxiliary lines on there, suddenly the whole scope of everything totally changes. So you do need to know the customer's complaint, but more than the rest, that comes with it. But he needs to know the machine and serial number, the identification completely, where the machine is at, it's very important, and as specific as they can get. Third, on what the customer's complaint, why they called in, what the malfunction possibly is, but may not be. But I mean malfunction as in the surface malfunction. Engine skips, hydraulics weak, travel is weak, it turns one way, or it doesn't dig like it used to, etc., or it makes a shuddering sound. Well, if they've asked the questions over here, when did that shuddering sound happen, then this guy's over here writing it down, having an idea that all this information is there for that technician to take out with him. And when he gets there talking to the customer, he knows the complaint, somewhat of the discussion that happened with the customer, possible source, where the machine is at, so you know the customer, the complaint, signs and symptoms, where the machine is at. So he's got half of the problems that he normally would have disappeared. Now you're starting to list in there the specifics about the machine and everything else that you've asked on it. On a car, that's a whole nother deal. You're not going to get very far. That's why if you go listen to Dave's Automotive here on YouTube, you'll find out that it's the 4 C's: cause or complaint, cause, correction, and confirmation. That's it. For the rest of us out there, it's a 7-step program and sometimes 8. Because one of the confirmations we need to know is the information. That's why you're over here, the machine specifics, so that the technician can be sure he even has the proper technical information and specifications that he's going to be working by. It's critical. It's not just a guess that this is a PC200, go fix it. And that's what majority that we got sent out with. If you're going to do a service on a D65 what? EX? PX? I forgot what the name of the other one. There were 3 designations for him. There's an EX, a PX, and then a WX. There are 3 different designations, and the undercarriage is completely different. Oh yeah. So we had to know some of that information, what blades on the front sometimes, so we know what type. The hydraulics were roughly the same, but not always identical. So we needed to know everything that went along with it. 6-way blade, 2-way blade, 1-way blade. Then they have some of them that are your standard old 2-way blade with a tilt. All of that changes everything. When you get out there to your backhoes, what adapters are on that, all of that stuff changes so much of the function of it. Doesn't have enough digging power, and you go out there and find out the thing has a coupler on the end of it to connect the bucket to it. Above the coupler is a wrist, so that the bucket can, and now they've got 500 to 1,000 pounds hanging off the end of it, and the call in is, ain't got no power. Yeah. Because now your bucket's out there foot and a half further than it would have been, and you lost thousands of pounds of digging force. There might be nothing wrong, and all of that's important on it. So, customer, machine specifics, machine accessories, and double check the proper site location where the machine is at before the driver leaves, or give him leave to make that call with the on-site phone number if possible to be sure where it is. We worked the gas fields. The guys gave me you got the address on the work order, and the address was Michigan, Minnesota, Washington State, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. Yeah, no lie. Ohio is a beauty, too. One of them was New Jersey. Got some directions? Not down there somewhere. State's not that big. Have a nice drive. No. No. I hit that one. That was beautiful. Don't send me to the city. You can fire me first. Anyway, those are the things I'm hoping that you'll look at when you go through it. On the phone with the customer, we'll go over it again. Who the customer is, where they're at, so you have an idea already. Have an idea of the machine, what machine it is, what the machine is doing, and then have the customer give you an idea of the signs and symptoms around that. You put that on a work order, the mechanic's not going to be doing handsprings, but he's going to be a lot happier when he starts out trying to figure out what the machine is, and that changes with customers sometimes. The numbers and specifics and accessories on the machine, the possible causes would go with the complaint that he may have to add and list on there, and an exact location of where the machine's at. So, and sometimes the 5th one is, what are they running for implements on their machines? And the implement will go along with the blades, the buckets, the wood chippers, the wood shredders, the clearing, what they're using for clearing, the grapples, the hammers. Any of that can change the functions and the problems that they have on the way out there. The mechanic needs to know that stuff. Intake over here, and then pass on the information, translate it for the technician before he leaves. You can take care of a lot of on-site. If you're a busy shop, that takes care of a lot of on-site problems when these two merge properly for the technician. A tremendous amount. I said, well, yeah, but no. When you take care of these four things, 4 or 5 things over here, the technician has a better idea what he has to put in his truck from shop tools to get out there, or what he won't have and may have to plan a way around certain types of testing. Just some ideas to throw out there for you, because it came to light in my head today when I've been trying to get a knee brace. And the amount of information I had to pass around for the knee brace that could have been simplified into something less than 30 seconds was insane. And I thought, why don't I pop here on YouTube and talk about mechanic shops? And you're going to get mine mostly from the ag and the construction side. Anyway, hope I didn't offend anybody. Oh, wait a minute. I don't care if I offended anybody. This is Pops, the Seth Howard's Repair Service in Appalachian, New York. I hope that helps some of you out there to do a little bit of training that I like to pop in here and toss on once in a while, because in 64 years of my life and 45 years out there, actually, if I count the time that I was working on farm in my teenage years, I've got 50 plus years of working out there. 50 to 55, depending on how you want to count it. So I was tearing PTOs apart when I was 15 years old. So I go back quite a bit and tore apart lawnmowers, ran Cox airplanes. I even had a Cox Conquest 15. It was built by K&B Engines for Cox to their specifications. Cox didn't know how to build an engine with a crankshaft port very well, except for their little bitty TDs. I had an engine that was 0.10 cubic inch displacement and a plane that flew. So I go way back with a lot of this stuff, all the way on up to I worked on a D275, I believe it was a Dash 2 Komatsu bulldozer, 475 horse. That was the rating. Yeah, no, that thing could push coal and tow a D8 cab behind it without hardly sweating. Thing was an elephant. 23 liters, 1,500 cubic inches of animal. You crank it over and you hear a whomp, and it sounds funny. That's a weird noise. And you go over and pop the side. There are 2 massive starters. The same starter on the next engine down, the 15 liter. Yeah, they pulled that starter out and put it in a 23 twice. And away she goes. Oh, it was a beautiful machine. It didn't have what Cat called transmission steer, hydrostatic steering, but it did have hydraulics for the steering to run the brake and the clutch. It's beautiful. You just sit there with your fingers steering this thing. It was an animal. Last I worked on it had 20-some thousand hours, 23, I think. We were putting seals in final drives, and that's it. No actual failures. We were taking care of oil leaks. Finally, they had the oil leaks for 10 years. Yeah, you couldn't kill the thing. So anyway, that's something that, the type of stuff that I've been working on all these years. So it gives you background. Right now we're running into, we're coming up on 18 and a half minutes. You folks have a good day. It's live. I was trying to get out of this thing and I just posted it to Facebook without even thinking, hey, I'm learning crap here. See ya.